Hello and welcome to Moneylife. This is Sucheta Dalal. This week, let's talk about India's consumer movement, whether we need it, what has happened to it, and how it's all going to change in the days of AI. I'm sure many of you know that social media has now become a replacement for going to a consumer organization or filing complaints. We've gone through a gamut of changes in the last few years, all based on technology. But do you know that we had a strong consumer movement in the 1960s and 70s, which most people born after 2000 probably don't even know about? This was a time defined by scarcity, black marketing, a dysfunctional public distribution system. You had to wait in queues, enroll, you couldn't get telephones easily, forget about having multiple ones, and you needed someone to fight for your rights. And who started it? Nine women got together to set up Consumer Guidance Society of India. This was one of the earliest, or perhaps the first, consumer organization. In less than 5 years, you had a movement enough that CGSI, as it's called, led a team of five consumer organizations, two members of parliament, demanding a strong and comprehensive consumer protection law. Their effort and lobbying led to the passing of the Consumer Protection Act, which is called COPRA, in 1986. From 86 to approximately 2000, in fact, a little after liberalization, were the golden years of India's consumer movement. Then you had the impact of 1991. 91, we almost defaulted. Then you had economic liberalization. And over the next 5 years, it was a changed country. Suddenly, there was technology. You had the internet, you had mobile phones coming in, and you had companies launching a range of products that you had to go abroad to get. Do you know that when people went abroad, they came back with moisturizers and soap because you couldn't get good quality stuff in India? And you had so little money when you went abroad, $20 per day, that you had this is all you could afford to bring back as gifts. Suddenly, between 95 and 2000, it was a different world. Every product that you wanted to was not only in India, the queues had vanished. You had multiple car brands, scooter brands, and companies were chasing you to buy electronic equipment and what have you. Consumers suddenly felt like kings and queens. Why would you need a consumer movement then, right? Companies themselves are chasing you. They are giving you the option to switch in between for a lot of things, including the facility for you to switch from one mobile operator to another, was done by consumer organization. But you didn't know about it because it didn't matter. Now, simultaneously, there was another change which was seen as most positive: the proliferation of sector regulators. So, you had a new regulator for the capital market, you had a regulator for telecom, power, more recently, real estate, pensions, insurance. So, again, everybody thought you don't need to go to court, you don't need to go to consumer bodies, which incidentally, the Consumer Protection Act promised to give you justice in 30 days, that or up to 90. That wasn't happening. That was slowing down. It was going back to our tariq pe tariq systems. So sector regulators were the new promise. And then you had GV Ramakrishna in SEBI, who in 1992, it was the first independent regulator, actually set the ball rolling by actively encouraging consumer organizations, giving them accreditation, and calling them for meetings to Bombay and interacting with them. Since this was a template, TRAI, when it was set up, followed the same thing. The power regulators did it. That lasted, I think, until a little after 2000 or mid 2000. Pretty soon, they became law unto themselves. All the regulators were sinecures for retired bureaucrats, and they continued to run them exactly the way government organizations run. So, engagement with consumer organizations and their representatives stopped, to the extent that SEBI does not even bother to have investor organizations on any of their primary market advisory groups, secondary market, or discussion committees that they set up. I've been on several of them, so I know how those days were. Legal system, of course, dealt the worst blow. Not only Tariq pe Tariq, but it came into the whole Copra system. So forget about resolutions in 150 days. Cases drag on for 3 to 5 years, and it is such that results are so pathetic that companies find it in their interest to appeal every judgment that goes against them. Forget about resolving it, they appeal to the state level and to the National Consumer Disputes Redressal Commission, which is the apex body. And worse, when these judgments are appealed to the Supreme Court either dilutes them when there is a deterrent penalty, or just throws them out if there is a class action involved. As things stand, at the current speed of resolution and appeals, COPRA seems designed to exhaust us complainants into surrender because exemplary damages don't exist. They don't even cover the time and cost of litigation. That will again be appealed, it can be watered down, and companies are quick to realize that these long delays and poor outcomes mean that 90% of people who file cases in consumer courts just abandon them after a couple of years because their anger is dissipated. You go to courts and you realize it's such a waste of time because you're wasting your day going there to fight something. So you've been wronged once and you're wronged over and over again because you're going there to fight. The companies don't care, they put lawyers, and they don't seem at all bothered about reputational damage because the media doesn't bother to cover them. As long as there is advertising muscle that companies enjoy, they ensure that sometimes, even when verdicts are reported, they're reported without the names of companies. The next phase, AI and technology. So now we have bots. In fact, I did a whole video blog on this about how maddening it is that you don't get a human interface. You get a bot. The bots are badly designed, they're glitchy, and you seem to be going into loops, not finding a human interface and not resolving your problem. But for every service you need after you buy a new product, there is a bot. They ask you to download it, they're taking away your data and not giving you the service, the least that you want, the service in return. So we always live in hope, right? So, and there's always something coming up. So the next ray of hope was social media. People began to think that you post something on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, and companies will panic. They don't want reputational damage and embarrassment, especially when things go viral, and they resolve your issues. Yes, they do. Only if there's a large following and it is actually likely to cause damage because it's gone viral. Now, not everything goes viral, and things like banking and insurance, you don't want to put personal details. So, all companies have figured out a solution. So, this technology, the companies are faster than you as an individual. They have a solution, which is to put social media teams send you a message instantly, take it off to DM, and then a lot of times nothing happens. If it is going to go viral because you have a large following, then your issues may get resolved. Now, the next thing that you do is you decide you will not buy bad products at all because you will go by reviews. And if there's a bad review, that's a negative for the company. They need to worry about it. While you are going to buy the good products because you're going to only pick up stuff that has got 4-star and 5-star reviews, right? Well, companies found a way around this. There was a proliferation of fake reviews. They figured out a way to engineer n number of reviews which continued to mislead you, deliberately put wrong reviews for bad products, cheap products, and you only got to know when you went there. Meanwhile, the core advocacy issues that were addressed by consumer organizations, such as adulteration, fraud, unsafe products, unsafe practices, not only have remained undiminished, but they have become worse and lethal with time and technology. So, again, the fraudsters are using the same technology to work against you. They're using science to work against you. So you have analog paneer, you have cheese that is not cheese at all. For heaven's sake, the laddus in Tirupati, which you buy with so much of faith and shraddha, turned out to be made with synthetic compounds and palm oil because some people did not even hesitate to cheat God. Then you have milk which is laced with detergents and toxic chemicals. You have harmful pesticides and antibiotics in everything that you eat to the extent that it's now in mother's milk. You have carcinogenic food coloring. So the convenience of all of this is marred by you having to search, look at ingredients, look at chemicals. And then there is the whole business about using technology and the ease of online shopping to again make a fool out of you. So, whether you're booking a cab or whether you're buying, there is something called dark patterns, okay, which is that only certain prices are pushed to you. You use an iPhone, you end up paying higher. Sometimes people in the same room will get a different rate for online taxi booking on an app, and if you're using one phone or you're new, so if you're new to the app, they want to encourage you, you get a better rate. If you're a regular user, far from liking you for your loyalty, you will get a higher rate. And this has happened, this has been reported. You have these issues of service charge. The government in the last 10 or 11 years has said, we will address everything. So what did they do? They tinker with the laws. Copra 2019, considered a game changer because it introduced the Central Consumer Protection Authority. Good. In fact, CCPA is active. Its recent judgment is about uh, punishing 27 companies for charging a service charge on in restaurants. Now, some of it takes up, which is more like a class, but it doesn't handle individual complaints. So you can't go there. When there are enough of complaints on social media, enough of complaints going to the National Consumer Helpline, then CCPA will take it up as a class, as they have done with the service charges and a few other things like misleading advertisements. But CCPA itself is hamstrung because you have created so many sectoral regulators that sometimes, it's a question of domain, where the insurance has to go to the insurance regulator, where the food related issues go to FSSAI, and power and telecom and so on. And these are the issues that you and I deal with. So now, have you given up hope? No. We are now looking at artificial intelligence, AI to the rescue. So, in the coming days, we are expecting AI to transform consumer protection in many ways. Those of you who have learned to use AI, you know that it's very positive, and there are things that are happening. You can look at ingredients, you can look at reviews, you can do a lot of things through AI. The government is also using it. So, the National Consumer Helpline has got upgraded with AI. It now accepts complaints in 17 languages through voice input. So you don't have to type in, you don't have to even be literate. You can just choose your language and speak your complaint. This has broadened access and apparently facilitated refunds. So the government claims 45 crores worth of refunds went out by the end of 2025. The National Consumer Helpline has also collaborated with Meta to deploy a chatbot. This chatbot is called Grahak-Nyay. It's developed by IIT Bombay and the National Law School, Bangalore. And it's a specialized AI in Indian consumer law to guide consumers through complaint procedures. So it knows the law, it'll help you draft legal notices, explain their rights, and help you to file. Pilot apparently is very promising in all the drafting. Okay. So in Jan 2025, it was doing well, has not yet been officially launched. But remember, it'll help you file. What do you do about cloud courts? That's another story. Then there is the e-Jagriti platform. This is a step above. It integrates complaint filing with virtual hearings, multilingual accessibility, and an AI-powered chatbot support. According to the government, it has resolved 131 lakh cases until mid November 2025. Yet, honestly, in spite of me being an activist, being with consumer organizations, I had no idea that eJagriti works so well. So, I have no idea how many have learnt about it, but it's a good development. Thirdly, AI is doing wonderful work in fraud detection. So, all those fake reviews and anomalies, you know, digital fraud where you lose money, it's gone from your account. The Supreme Court has first of all said, what are banks doing, where it's technology, which is a positive development. But AI can actually uncover anomalies in transaction patterns. For instance, you're a pensioner, you're withdrawing money twice a month. You're a student, when your parents send you money, you're withdrawing it once a week. Suddenly there is a huge withdrawal which is three times, four times. Should be able to flag it. And today, frankly, banks have the technologies, and the Supreme Court has correctly asked this question. Why is it that you're not able to stop and flag it after the first transaction at least? But in fact, with AI, even before the first transaction, before there is a complaint, before money is lost, it should be frozen until a question is asked. Positive pay and things have happened, but yet every day there are complaints about digital fraud. AI can resolve that. So are we trusting AI? Yes, it's also cleaning up fake reviews, so it's improving legitimacy. This Trust Pilot, which has removed 4.5 million fraudulent reviews in 2024 by analyzing linguistic patterns, anomalies, and verification status. Now, legitimacy of reviews will improve. So, again, that helps us buy and book the right products. All very good. AI can also track customer service quality of companies and look at sentiment analysis. So you've launched a bad product, it's going viral, there's an impact, people are complaining. Now, most product managers and executives don't even want to tell the top brass. They try to fix the problem because their salaries, increments, bonuses depend on hiding complaints. So AI can track it and send alerts to senior management. So when are triggered and there's a spike, things are resolved before it becomes a hassle. Again, a positive use of AI. It can track defunct testing, expiry date, certifications, so cleaner and better products should be on your shop shelves. It can detect dark patterns and antitrust action. But remember, there's a flip side to everything. And companies have more money and more resources than you do. So they can use these dark patterns and antitrust action to suppress complaints, send you in a loop, pretend to resolve your issues, keep you talking and not do anything. So you can either help the regulator initiate enforcement action, which our government says it's doing, or it can help companies hide, suppress, send you in a loop. Both can happen. So if you want AI to work, if you want consumers to get good service, AI needs to operate with very strong government oversight and regulation, which requires a corruption free environment where the government prioritizes people. And it's not about talk, it's about action. If it is about action, then the first thing the government would do is do something about judicial systems. Because if judicial systems are not cleaned up and not fast tracked, this weaponizing of AI and the faster processing and intelligent automation will all come to a halt because companies have the resources to file cases and then it can go on for 10 years or 15 years. What is the direction that India will take? On the one hand, our consumer movement got its power from public support. This was in the 70s, 80s, right up to the mid 90s. That has gone for a toss because you don't see the need for consumer movement and action and for some people to fight a collective cause. You have technology, you have a lot of promises, but whether it's Grahak-Nyay drafting a fantastic complaint, unless resolution happens and doesn't get clogged in courts, it's not going to help you. It's also naive to think that the government will protect consumers when it has ensured that we still don't have a action mechanism in India. Government is saying, I will do everything. That doesn't happen anywhere in the world. People have to fight for themselves. People have to be empowered, which is why you need class action suits, but that has been kept toothless by procedural and logistical hurdles. You need at least 100 people to form a class. Somebody has to put together the class. In other countries where there are contingency fees, the lawyer's firm takes a risk, spends that money, gets the affidavits, gets the details, puts together a class. Here, NGOs and consumer organizations can do it. But the courts have often said, who are you and what's your role and why should we pay attention to what you're saying? There has to be a mandate to recognize this so that NGOs can fight for you as a class. The government's governance framework for AI, articulated in November 2025, prioritizes innovation over restraint. That means innovation for companies rather than action from the government in the form of restraints. So they think self regulation is going to happen. This was the glory days of the 90s. Now you have the glory days of AI, where they think because AI is able to clean it up, companies will be nice and they will do it they will not have dark patterns. They will not try to rip you off because they need you as a customer. We have seen in real life that it does not happen. Online services are gamed. CCPA actually issues corrective guidelines, but enforcement remains patchy. In effect, AI and technology is unlikely to protect customers. Only three things can do it. First, as I said, judicial reforms and understanding punitive damages. You not only need fast justice, until there are really serious crippling damages, companies don't care. Today, the legal process is a second round of punishment for victims despite sectoral regulators. And that's why 90% give up. Third, make class action work. Treat NGOs as legitimate plaintiffs. All said and done, the consumer protection movement in India is at the crossroads because you, the consumer, don't recognize their need. AI is one in a long line of solutions which is holding out promise, but you've been living on promises since the 90s. Yes, some things have gotten better, but it's not always going to be the case. The ball is in your court. It's for you to decide which way to go. Are you just going to live in hope and decide that changing technology will work? Or sometime wake up and realize that yes, you need consumer organizations because believe me, there are not many people who want to take on the task of fighting for other people's issues. If you understand the seriousness of this, please share and please think about it. Thank you.